All right, we'll get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Let me stand here because we're streaming online. Are there people online watching? Hopefully. Okay. So today we would like to talk about two upcoming features that are coming soon, hopefully with Office 365. Specifically, they're kind of bundled in with groups. That's why we titled groups here, but they really are bundled in with all of Office 365. I'm Jesse Thompson, and I'm
Sean Cannon.
Hello, Sean. All right. So today's topics we're going to be talking about Planner and connectors. Office 365 Planner is a new lightweight project management tool being released by Microsoft. We're going to do a quick overview of the capabilities of that tool, do a demo, and have some discussion Q&A. This is going to be a very demo-heavy presentation today, so feel free to shout out any questions, or if you want us to explore any certain areas of these tools, just let us know. And there are also note cards around. If you don't want to shout out, you can hand them up to Christina, and she can do it for you. And then second topic will be on Office 365 connectors, and this is connectors are a way to send in data from various third-party cloud services into Office 365 groups. So again, we'll do an overview, demo, and discussion. Okay, and Sean is going to talk about Planner.
All right. So Office 365 Planner is, well, obviously a new feature. It's really targeted for kind of a middle area of project management. They're hoping to release it early this summer. Specifically with where it's targeted. So for PMOs and executives, they're used to portfolio management and project management tools such as Microsoft Project. Some other Jira would probably fall into the project teams, project management stuff. Teamwork PM. Where Planner kind of fits best is ad hoc teams or teams that spring up kind of just to get a certain part of a project done or just a smaller project done, which is a little bit more complex than just a individual person trying to manage their tasks. Within OWA, which is the only place you can currently get to Planner, you hit the waffle menu at the upper left-hand corner, and it will eventually appear in that menu as the little Planner icon there at the bottom. Planner is, at its core, a Kanban board. If you're not familiar with Kanban, Kanban's it's a way to visualize tasks and workflows in a fairly simple way. The way that they're implementing this or Planner into groups, every group will have a plan associated with it. Whether or not it's populated or used is up to the group members. Every plan itself has one Kanban board. Each of the boards have cards, and then the cards are organized into buckets. If anybody's used Trello, it's equivalent to the columns that Trello uses. You'd move cards across the buckets to either track progress or categorize the individual tasks. There's a hub view in Planner that lets you can set your favorite plans, so you can see kind of an overhead view of how many tasks are pending, what's started, not started, running or hasn't hit its due date, or overdue rather. And then there's a My Task view to track your own tasks. So if you're a member of a bunch of groups and there's a bunch of plans that have tasks assigned to you, you can go to one spot and see all of those tasks and if they're not started, in progress, or completed. So here's the board view. You can see that you have the columns across there. Image is very small. The way they did the columns were to do, proposal, proposal development, reviews and approvals, and opportunity kickoff. Each of the cards can have its own preview image. You can set different parts of different information on the card to be the preview image. So they use some charts out of a Microsoft Excel document there, or just some images. This is the hub view. When you set your favorites in hub, you get the view of the rings there. And they're color-coded as to not started, late would be red, in progress is blue, and complete would be green. All right, and I will start a demo. All right. All right, so this is my Planner hub. Once again, just to show you how I got here, I logged into Office 365 on the web, and through the waffle menu at the top, I just hit this Planner button, and it brings me here. To create a plan, you can either go in and create an Office 365 group first, or if you're wanting to start with the plan, you can do that. So I'll click New Plan. I give the plan a name, so I'm just going to call this Live Demo. The plan gets an email address because every time you create a plan, it makes that group. You can change the group name here if you want to, bearing in mind that the Office 365 group space is kind of an open namespace, so you have to be careful in what you name things. So you can't just name something HR. That would probably get lost or not be very clear to other people. You can make this plan public or private. If it's public, people can search for it in the Groups tool, find the group, and join the group, thus joining the plan. If you make it private, you'll have to invite people to it specifically. And then a plan description, something about the plan, or something about the group. All right. So you click Create Plan, and it will create. Quickly, we hope. Quicker, we hope. Live demos, folks. All right. We're going to pretend like that created. And inside of the plans, in the board view, you see just kind of a rough layout. It's just some general content that I put in here. Each card, so I'll start with the buckets. So to create buckets, there will be three initial, or no, sorry, there's only one initially, but you can add new ones. So you just click where it says Add Bucket Name, and then you make a bucket name. That could be anything, depending on how you're using the buckets. If you're using the buckets to track progress, it could be development started, development completed, implementation, or waiting on implementation. Sky's the limit. So, and then from within the bucket, you click the plus sign, and then you can create a card or an issue or whatever you're using, whatever you're tracking. So,
we're only seeing Jesse's picture, not the presentation.
Oh.
Stop screen sharing. And
that working?
probably just keep going.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. When you're creating a card, you can set a due date right away from the creation screen. So set this one to be due today. And then you can also assign it. So I'm going to assign this to Jesse. Whenever you create a task and assign it to somebody, that person will receive an email saying that they have something assigned to them. It also emails the group saying that there's been a task created and assigned. So if you're creating a plan and you are populating it with a whole bunch of stuff all at once, it will get kind of spammy to your group list. It was actually one of the most requested features on the Microsoft User Voice site for this, and they're implementing that fix. They are hoping that it comes out within the next couple weeks in the preview. But there will be a way to limit the flow of that information so you're not drowning your group members in emails. So, we'll get into one of the other cards that I have here. So on this card, I made a checklist. Just down here, there is on every card there's an area to make a checklist. That is all very small.
Sean, at the PowerPoint for the presentation, I'm seeing Jesse's average card.
Okay.
More technical difficulty.
More technical difficult.
Well, yeah. Again.
I got it.
Any questions so far? Since we're having so many technical difficulties. Yeah.
Can a group have more than one plan?
Not
no.
currently.
Yeah, every group can have one plan only, and every plan must have a group, so they're kind of tied. Yeah, Microsoft, I think they feel that, you know, since the way they rolled out groups is anyone can create a group and name it whatever they want. So if you want another plan, you just create another group.
Is that checklist feature, is that something that's built in there?
Yes. And I can get into, actually I'm going to go into another one of the cards. So within the checklist, you use this to track kind of like subtasks. As you go, as whoever's it's assigned to is getting things done, they can check and they get crossed off. And you'll see the demo, or sorry, the slide here, again, very small, but it says 3 of 8 boxes have been checked, so you can just get that view from just looking at the card without going into it. As you're going through things, if you find that one of the items on the checklist is maybe a little bigger than you had initially thought and it actually warrants its own like card, there is a promote button over here that when you click, it just takes that one and pops it out to the bucket where the checklist was in the first place. So you can then take that card, assign it to somebody, or give it its own subtasks from within there. You can attach files to the cards, and you can actually attach them from OneDrive, Box, or Google, or just upload them from your computer. If you upload them from your computer, they will get put into the group OneDrive space. So they'll be accessible if you go through the group's interface to get into that group's OneDrive space. Anything that's on a card will show up in there. If you want to put in something from Box or Google Drive, you would do it through the link interface. I've done that for a couple things. This is one that I uploaded from my computer, and when I click on it, it will take me to Office Online. That very small text says, "This is super important and totally relevant to the presentation," because it is. If I go back to the planner, I have a Google Doc that I linked in here. Just clicking on that. Yes?
What is a plan?
What is a plan?
It's unclear to me what
So a group is the group of individuals that you've made kind of that email, it's an email group, right? A plan would be a board in which everybody working on that group can interact with. So it's a shared task list, essentially.
Right, so when I make a group plan, does it pre-populate with a set of columns or make all those.
You make those from scratch.
Every time I make a new plan, I would think
Yep. Yep. Yes.
When you're uploading files, is this creating its own OneDrive space for the group on its own quota? Does it come as your own quota? How does that work?
Being that it's the plan's created when the plan is created, it makes a group. The OneDrive space, the shared OneDrive space, is made upon creation. So when you upload, it goes into that shared space. It doesn't count against your quota. It counts against the. I don't know how our. Yeah.
How big of a quota does each group get?
How big can what?
How big of a quota does each group get?
I don't remember the default quota limit.
I'm not certain offhand.
Sean, when you
Yeah.
assign a task and you put a due date on, will that pop up in your calendar then too?
That's the second most requested feature in Planner. Also on the user voice boards, they're looking into implementing that, and they're trying to decide if they want it to appear on the assignees calendar as an item that's due, or if they want to put it on the group calendar, or both, or give the users a choice. You can set start dates as well. So then the question comes: you put both the start and the end date on it. They're
Reminder date.
Exactly. So that's something that they're working on. I'm not sure how they'll implement it yet, but I'm sure there'll be something, hopefully by the time it actually gets into general availability.
Sean, can you bid one more question so that make sure people
Yes. That question was, will due dates appear on calendars when they're set? Any other questions before we continue? All right. And then Box Link, it's probably going to ask me to log in again. But if you go into Box and you want to share a document, that you have the option of sharing to a link. If you copy that link and put it into the Planner issue, it direct links into that. You can also attach images. You can upload those from your computer, or do linking to them on the internet. This one is actually uploaded to the group shared space.
That's using OneDrive.
Yep.
It's using OneDrive.
Oh, the question was is that using OneDrive, and the answer is yes. So assigning people to cards is pretty easy. You can do it either by grabbing an avatar and dropping it on a task, or you can go into the task itself and go to assignment. Actually, it doesn't say assignment, but you just click on whoever it's assigned to, and you can either make it unassigned or assign somebody else to it. Currently, you can only assign one person to a task. They are hoping to implement a way to have multiple people assigned to a task.
So is there a way to add like a role-based account so you can assign a task to a series of role-based account that you will have access to? Or would that just be something you would perform?
Yes. The question is, can you assign tasks to a role-based account? I guess I haven't tried to assign to a service account.
Yeah, something like that.
They can be members of groups, right?
One that can see a task that showed up, but
Is there a service account in ITE? We can.
I wouldn't do that. We don't have time to do that
Okay.
to that extent. But you can add service accounts to be members of groups. So in theory, yes. However, service accounts aren't licensed for OneDrive, or what else would they need?
Planner.
Well, Planner would be its own license. So I really don't know how functional Planner would be for a service account. So I wouldn't count on that working. I think you should think about this for people.
The other option would be to leave it unassigned and work out with the group you're working with to know that if something's unassigned, it's just expected that everybody's kind of paying attention to it.
Or you could create a different bucket that has a category of something that people are collaborating on or something. I mean, you can make the buckets fit whatever workflow that you need.
So yeah.
Maybe do the hub view.
Yeah, I want to touch on one more thing, and then I'll move back out to the hub view. Up the side of the cards here, there is labels. These are fully customizable per plan. As of right now, there's no way to expand them beyond the 6 that are here, but you can have multiple labels set on a card, depending on how you're using them. They show up as the tiny little colored flags on the sides here. To go back to the hub view, you can see that the planner test plan that I have as a favorite here has one completed task, one task that is late, and one that is not started yet. And if I go into my tasks, I can see the 6 tasks that I have assigned to me. There's a little number next to that, so I can see without even going into it. And then you can see that I have not started 6 of the tasks. I have 1 task that's complete. If I want, I can drag from not started to in progress, and it'll actually mark that as in progress. These boxes at the top are how you do that manually. It's a progress box. There's a the first drop down is all the buckets that this task exists in. So if you want to move it to a different bucket, you can do that from here. You can set the start date and the end date there also.
Sean, I have a question.
Yes.
Is that my task view, the view of your tasks in that particular group, in that plan?
It's all groups. Oh, sorry. The question is if the My Tasks view is a view of just tasks in the plan you're working in currently.
Correct, or is it multiple?
Okay. It is actually all plans you're a member of. If you have something assigned to you, they would all appear here. The buckets or columns here are not. You can't configure these. It's always going to be not started, in progress, or complete. So dragging them across this is only going to change the status of the card. But you can still open the cards and manipulate them as if you were in the actual plan itself.
Sean, what is the drop down in the group by in the upper right there?
What is the drop down?
Right under your picture.
You can group by progress or plan. So this kind of like shows the different plans that you have things assigned to you in. It won't let you move tasks between plans, which is good because that could be confusing.
Sean?
Yes.
I have another question. Someone's asking, or they're saying that they collaborate with other system campuses. So since this seems group-based, is it possible to collaborate with other system campuses?
Do we currently allow?
No. So the question is, could we allow like UW system collaborators in a plan? And the answer is no. Microsoft does not allow group members outside of our own tenant, which would be UW-Madison Office 365. We couldn't add Milwaukee users to a group. That is one of the most requested features of groups. So we don't know if Microsoft will implement that or not, but it's been well over a year that Microsoft has had that feedback. I'm not really sure what their status is on that.
I have another question. Is there an app, either standalone or built into one of the existing apps, a mobile app that will work with Planner?
The question is, are there any apps that will work with Planner, either mobile or desktop? The answer is currently not. They're working on a mobile application for just specifically Planner, and they're working on tying it into the group part of Outlook.
There is a groups app that you can install that will interact with groups, and I would expect that some of the Planner capabilities will bubble up. I mean, right now, if there's an email chain that's going on as a result of your plan, you could use that app to collaborate on that email conversation. But I would guess in the future they'd start adding in the Planner features too.
Yeah.
Once you finish all of the tasks in your plan, what happens to the plan and what are like the archiving?
So what happens after you've finished everything?
Yeah.
I think it will just be shown as everything complete.
Yeah, everything will just.
And then the plan just exists in the left menu the same way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Unless you, unless that group is deleted, the plan will remain.
And you could, so I don't know if Sean touched on this. You can mark plans as favorite, so you can unfavorite the ones that you're no longer concerned about, and that'll take it out of your hub view.
Kind of building up that, so if each group can have a single plan, finish your plan, can you archive it, make new, or you just keep building on that same plan?
So the question is, should you keep building on a plan after you're done? Well, I kind of see this as, I wouldn't try to use Planner to manage a big project. I would use it to manage individual initiatives within your bigger project. So if you've got developing a new feature of your application or a new marketing campaign or whatever you're doing, I would create a plan for that, and then you have a concise goal in mind, and you can get all the relevant team members on and then finish it. And then if you have something new coming up, you'd start a new plan surrounding that. I don't think it has enough complexity to manage a really large project that's ongoing for a long time.
So I guess what I'm hearing is this isn't really about large projects, it's more about, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like we have to create a new Office 365 group every time we want to work on a new plan, even if the same people are involved. So I can kind of envision a scenario like we're onboarding a new employee, and we all have sort of a set of tasks or things that we're working on to onboard the new employee, and that gets done, and then a different employee comes in. It's still the same people working on, that particular set of work. But what I'm hearing is we have to create a new group in order to have a new plan to deal with that.
That's a really long question.
So I think your question boils down to group proliferation, and doesn't that seem like a problem?
So.
Well, that's one way to phrase it. Or, is there have you seen any feedback on the user voice site saying, hey, we'd like to be able to create multiple plans within a group?
There's that feedback.
Okay.
That one wasn't voted up as much, so it's kind of standby. By the way, if anybody is interested in looking to see what feedback Microsoft's getting on it, if you go to planner.uservoice.com, that is their feedback site. You can vote things up. You can put new things on there to be voted on. It's a way to give them feedback directly. So touching on the onboarding question, that's actually one of the examples Microsoft gives in one of their videos, that you have like an HR department that does onboarding, or the interview process that leads into onboarding. You would set up the buckets to be a repeatable path through, and then you would make the individual tasks that person, and then you can make checklists on each person, and then you just have people go through that, and then when they move to completion, I guess I should show you. So if I have, I'm going to say I'm done with the demo list. If I click the checkbox there, which is also very much the same as going into here under the progress and selecting completed, you can see they kind of fall off. They get hidden under this show completed section where you can see previous things you had worked on. So if you set up your workflow in a way that you can reuse it for each individual person, you can keep using the same plan. If it's the same group of people doing the same stuff, it just becomes a question of setting up the plan in a way that you can just kind of cycle things through it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you might have multiple plans for a project. One might be more of a meta high-level overview of the bigger work that's going on, and then the individual things might be their own plans that have specific, 3 or 4 people working on that. You can build it complexity that way to meet your team's needs.
So you could you start with like a sample plan?
Like a template for a plan?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
And
something
then
that came up. I don't know.
copy it for each onboard?
I don't think there's a way to do it like an imported template.
Yes.
Yeah, there might be 5-10 minutes of manual work of creating the buckets quickly when you first start a plan and adding the members. So that might be a little bit of manual initial work that you may have to do. There is an API that we could potentially build something around to import from some data feed, but I don't know, that would be work. It might be easier just to do it manually during the initial plan setup.
All right, I'm going to try to wrap up my part here so we can get into connectors. Trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to touch on. At the top of the planner, the board view, there is a link to the notebook, which is the OneNote, the group shared OneNote notebook. The tie-ins here are pretty blatant. They're leveraging that you can link to direct things inside of a OneNote notebook from within Planner. So if you have like a page in your OneNote notebook that has to do with this very specific task in your plan, you can put a link in there and have a fast track into that. In order to do that, you right-click on a. You right-click on a page in the OneNote notebook and just say copy a link to this page. Then you go back into the plan, and you would attach this via the add link. Give it a title. And then from there, if you want to go into that one page in the OneNote notebook, you just click that link and it takes you right there.
Is that OneNote notebook then just for the group?
Yep. It's a shared just to the group that is in the plan. I will switch back to the PowerPoint presentation. So the example use cases, you could use it to manage an event, such as if you were planning a brown bag, we could have done this all in Planner. You brainstorming of new ideas, tracking projects, preparing for customer visits, organizing teams, like I said, onboarding of staff, any kind of small, it's a lightweight project management thing. So very integrated into Office 365 groups, uses OneDrive for shared document space, and they're leveraging the OneNote notebook for shared note-taking across. For best practices, again, for smaller initiatives, keep in mind the naming of groups and plans when you make them, to make them specific enough for people that you want to find them to be able to find them. It can be used for individual planning, even though you have to create a group for it. If you just make the group a private group and don't invite anybody into it, you could use Plan to like track your own tasks. Say you work on multiple projects, you could have a bucket for each project and list your tasks in there, and then kind of use it to manage your own stuff. And then just wanted to touch on the measuring progress. Remember that there's kind of two ways. If depending on how you set up your buckets, you could use the buckets to denote different levels of in progress while something's being worked on, as opposed to the very not started, in progress, and complete that the individual cards have on their own. At this point, there's been a lot of good questions so far. Are there?
Yeah, I was wondering about the ability to sort of like export data.
Currently, they don't have any real easy way to export data outside of copy and paste. I guess what I would do if it was me and I wanted data that I could pull out is I would just link to documents within OneDrive or Google or something, and just use the cards as like a link into something. Just put like a title it in a way that you know where you're going when you get into the cards.
Questions?
So,
I just have a question. Are there concerns about potentially enabling that for the tenant when it goes live this summer?
It's storing documents in OneDrive, right? Yeah. Be careful about conflict data that we would store. That's either one.
Yeah, I believe the only service that would be advisable for storing specifically HIPAA data would be Box, but only if security signs off on your use case of Box. So definitely do not store that sort of data in OneDrive.
I did find some information about the space in the group space. Only 1 terabyte.
Okay.
A year ago, so that could have been increased for the amount of space that you had within the group within OneDrive for that group.
Yes, Ara had said that he looked up the storage space for the group OneDrive, and it was listed as 1 terabyte. You said that was a year ago, Ara?
Yeah.
Okay. So we would expect it to be that or more at this point.
All right. I'm just going to close these tabs. Yeah. Okay, we're going to launch into connectors now. So anyone who doesn't care about connectors? All right, so Microsoft does a pretty good job of explaining connectors, so can you go over there and make sure the volume is turned on that? So we're just going to show their video. It's just a short video.
We depend on apps to be more productive and more effective, but that brings the hassle of logging in and out over and over across many services, and you can't easily find the most relevant information. Introducing Office 365 Connectors, part of Groups. Now you can connect your most important apps to Office 365 and start effective conversations around your most relevant content. Here's how it works. Go to Connectors. Check out the growing list of tools and services. Let's connect to Twitter. Click Add. Connect to Twitter and follow important accounts or hashtags. Adjust your settings without ever leaving Office 365. Reply to tweets instantly and share specific messages with teams and colleagues using Groups. Social media like Twitter, project management like Trello, marketing tools like MailChimp, and great services like Bing News, and so much more, all at your fingertips within Office 365. Take control of your apps and services, and focus on getting things done with Office 365 Connectors from Microsoft.
All right. You like that commercial?
Never leave Office 365. Ever.
Next. All right. So as you saw in the video, connectors are essentially a way to send data in from these disparate third-party cloud services into your Office 365 group. So it's like kind of piping data in. They did also mention that you can interact with the content in some cases, and that really depends on the specific app you connect.
Fix the stream.
Oh, okay. Okay, and that slide just kind of goes over some of the connectors that they have. They have over 50 now, and I would expect to see them add a lot more over time. And one note is that we don't control what connectors they add, and we don't endorse the specific connectors they're adding. So just because you see something on there doesn't mean that we're saying that you can now use this service for storing UW data. That's your responsibility. Don't click through end-user license agreements without consulting UW Legal and all that jazz. But if you are using those services and you want to connect them in with your group, it's a pretty powerful tool for doing that. You saw this in the video. When connectors become enabled in Office 365, if you just go to your group, and then you'll see the tab up on the top right for connectors. And from there you can add them. This is a screenshot of what you'll see when you try to add a connector. You'll just see the full list of connectors you can add, and then from there you just follow the prompt. And then after you've added some connectors to your group, this is the screenshot of what it would look like, of which connectors are added to your group. And you can go into there to configure them. And I'll do a demo. Any questions while I'm getting set up?
Switch the stream again.
No.
Is it listed somewhere that Microsoft keeps current of all available connectors?
Yes, if you go into into groups where the connectors are, you push the connector button, it lists everything that's available there.
So connector has to be enabled to see the list of connectors?
Yes, and it is currently not enabled.
Yeah, and this so connectors are something we can enable now, but I guess today we're looking for feedback on whether it's okay to enable them now, or what you guys think about it.
Is it just for groups or is it for individuals as well?
So far, just for groups. I don't know. I can't really foresee them doing it on an individual basis. But I'm not sure if there's a connectors user voice that I can point people to.
You guys know if there's any kind of like security vetting process for developers who are putting connectors in?
I stepped through the tool that Microsoft provides to create a connector for an app. It doesn't seem to be super. I don't think you could do much with it. The best you can do is kind of like pull.
I'll do a demo of the webhook connector, and you'll see that it's not really something that needs to be vetted at an institutional level.
Yeah.
It's really vetted per group, and then you can, if you want to build an app that connects in with your group, you create that, and then it has the specific URL has the authorization embedded in with it. So if you don't want that outside app connected in, then you just delete the connector. Let's see. Good. So I created a group called CIO to, as you probably know, I'm not the CIO, but it just highlights the fact that the group's namespace is wide open. You can create whatever group name you want. So be specific when you're creating groups. Anyway, in here you'll see I created a Twitter feed for the Wired, anything that Wired posts to Twitter, it now feeds in here. And then I also did a RSS feed. I think this is a daily digest of everything posted to Hacker News. So those are just two easy examples. Any questions on those so far? If I go to connectors, okay, so here you can see the ones I have configured. The Subversion one, I don't have the Subversion one working yet, but I just wanted to highlight this one. I thought was pretty interesting because Microsoft included instructions on how to set it up, and they actually give you sample code. In this case, they gave you Perl code you could just copy and paste that into your script and tweak the script however you need to, and from there, anything your external app wants to send into a group can do however you see fit. Let's see. Cancel. And I'm going to do a quick demo of the webhook. To show how easy it is. And since it is a CIO group, I put a picture of Bruce up there. Taken from the Do It Accomplishments video. Let's see. Oh, I want to go here. Okay, so this is the add-on, just a simple REST API add-on. It's the same one that Jacob used in his last Brown Bag talk. But from there, what you want to do is you could do this with curl or anything capable of making a web request. And I want to change the. Oh shoot. I meant to have a blog article up. Yeah, here's an example that Microsoft gives how to use curl just to post in. But I can show you how to do it with this add-on. So I'm sending in JSON data, and I want to send in some text. In theory, it's not exactly fast. 200 okay, I think that was success. Let's see if it showed up. Cancel here. And close that. And it says in my group it now says I have new activity, and there's the message, hello world. So that concludes my demo. Any questions about connectors?
This is one direction, it's just bringing things in. You can't tweet things out or whatever from this.
Well, yeah, I haven't really researched the sending data back out. You could, for example, change the content that you're sending in to include buttons and links, and from those, if those have embedded locations or actions that are associated with the user interacting with that content, that could be a way to interact with the outside world. In the demo video that Microsoft had, they were showing how you could reply to a tweet. I didn't actually try that, so I'm not really sure how well that works. But I think with enough tweaking, you could build in a lot of interactivity. I think that's what Microsoft intends. What data is being sent out by the things that are connected? I don't think that the membership of the groups would not be sent out. I think the only thing that could be sent out is if the user clicked on a link that was sent in. So that would be a way for some third party to track clicking. I guess we'd have to really do some diagnostic to see if Microsoft loads anything behind the scenes without user interaction, but that's a good question.
Can you automate groups? Like listservs?
Can you automate? What do you mean by automate groups?
Self-subscribed.
Yes, any group you create, you can allow it to be public, which means that anyone in the organization can join the group. And then, as a reminder, with groups, there's the option to subscribe or not to subscribe to a group. So, actually, I think that I had that in a slide. Yeah. So, as you can see, if you hook up the Twitter fire hose, for example, to a group, you're going to get a lot of emails sent to it. So I recommend not doing that. But if you do it with a group that doesn't have people auto-subscribe to it. Use it for groups where people don't subscribe to it. That way those messages won't go to their inbox. It'll just go within the group itself. The user would have to click into the group to see those messages that are flowing in. So you could do it if you wanted to, create a group that monitors, a lot of trends on Twitter or something. You could certainly do that, but I wouldn't have people subscribe to that group.
So, like, you put the Twitter plugin in one of these groups, every time there's a tweet, is there a notification sent out to the whole group?
Yeah, I think you can configure the Twitter one, and probably a lot of the others, to either send in a message for every tweet, or to do like digests at a configurable level. I think they allowed for like an hour or a day or something digest. I think there are 3 or 4 levels. But again, it depends on the specific connector. Some connectors will have more capabilities than others. And then, like I said earlier, just because there's a connector there available to you doesn't mean we're saying that you're allowed to use it. I mean, use the ones that you're already taking advantage of if you're using a specific tool and you want to connect it in, great. But if you need to know if you can sign up for something like Trello or whatever you want to use, you need to talk with your legal representatives to determine if we're allowed to use those services. Yeah.
I guess just getting back to the question before about vetting. So at some level, Microsoft is vetting these, but Twitter is the company making the Twitter connector, right? I mean, just
Yes.
random person.
Did Twitter make the connector? I would suspect that Microsoft made that connector, and they're just tapping into Twitter's API. But yeah, and to get at your other question about vetting, we can't control we can't like disable certain connectors, and that's something we did look at, and we don't have that ability.
So Jesse, just looking at the documentation, it looks like some of these connectors require that you supply your user account into the service to be able to bring it in. So for example, if I'm going to bring a Twitter feed in, I actually have to have an account with Twitter and log in with that. I wonder if there are any concerns about, number one, having to store the credentials for that personal account within our Office 365 tenant. And then on the other side of it, thinking is like, credential provider for the university, wondering if any of those services enable either OAuth or LTI or other things that might enable an institutional sign-on into those systems, in which case we might be asserting attribute information about people without, either without institutional awareness or without any kind of review process or things like that. Any thoughts around either the issue there or how we might handle it?
So the question is largely surrounding storing of credentials.
Yeah, I think it's two sides. First off, are we storing people's personal credentials in our Office 365 tenant to reach out to these services? And then on the other side, are there situations where people are using their institutional credentials to access other services?
Right. So are we storing users' personal credentials for these third-party services? I don't think that we would be storing, the Office 365 would be storing the credentials. I think what they store is the OAuth key that's generated as a response of going through the OAuth process. And that's something a user can disable if they don't trust Office 365. They can go into their Twitter settings and turn off that OAuth access. In the inverse direction, are we storing institutional credentials?
Well, what I'm wondering is, if we're using a technology like OAuth or LTI or something like that to assert with the institutional credential, like use my NetID to log into Twitter, for example, where that's how the connector gets there. There's also attribute information that's asserted in that process, and then, is that a release of institutional data to the service?
I don't think that connecting to these services would release attribute information, but that's something we should look at. I know that is a concern for Google Apps because you can use Google. You don't be asking Google Apps to then use OAuth to sign into third-party services using your NetID as kind of a hop through Shibboleth and then through Google. It's probably a larger discussion, I think.
Yeah, I just want to talk about the writing process for that.
Yeah.
That might be.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Yeah, that was pretty much all I had. So again, the connectors is available to us now to turn on. We were debating whether to turn it on. Our initial assessment seemed like it was pretty benign to turn it on because users should generally know that they don't have to use it. It's mostly just sending in data into a group rather than sending data out. Tom's issue maybe needs a little bit more discussion. But what do you guys think? Should we turn it on? Should we never turn it on?
Well, one of the worries I had with the vetting process I was talking about was that, I was wondering what Microsoft's screening process is for it. Like if, like the Android App Store where you have a lot of potentially malicious apps on there created by Joe Schmo, is that kind of the case here? Is it mostly companies that are making these apps, or that they're borrowing from?
Yeah. So how do we verify that the Twitter app is trustworthy? For example,
The Twitter I'm not as worried about as opposed to just like some random app for a specific purpose that somebody's made.
Yeah,
might be on the store.
That's a good question. Do we know who is creating these apps and whether they're the official sanctions app for these organizations?
Like secretary could start a group and plug in an app, and then it has a link to something that's going to download. That sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a good question. We'll have to do some more research on that. I would guess that most of these apps are created by Microsoft. Maybe they're probably consulting with the public API information that these services provide, but the development is probably done by Microsoft. But we can double check. They may be collaborating with these services to help determine the best way to implement the apps. But I don't think Microsoft is going to release an app that isn't vetted. But it's something worth looking more into.
And then we just have a basic question about groups. I think they're saying that they're having issues deleting multiple conversations in groups. Is that done?
I don't know the answer. The question is, how do you delete multiple conversations in groups? Does anyone know how to do that?
Or is anyone else having trouble with that?
It's duplicative or just?
Yeah, multiple conversations at once, deleting multiple conversations in groups.
Maybe you can get that person's information when we check.
Okay.
It may be a client limitation, so it might depend on which client they're using. And again, the IT Collaborative Tools Group, if that's how we announce this, if you're not on it, I suggest that you join it. Feel free to send an email to it if you want to bring up a particular topic for discussion. Yeah, that's about it. Anything else? Did I miss anything?
And we'll also post the slides from today's presentation to that group.
Yeah.
If you'd like to share that with anyone else, you're more than welcome.
I put some links on the bottom too, but you could just Google for these two. That's all I did.
When you're in a group and the group has connectors, does everyone in the group have the ability to add or decline connectors? Like who chooses what connectors are used for?
So anybody in the group can add. Oh, sorry. The question is who has the ability to add connectors to a group and remove connectors from a group. Anybody in that group can add a connector, and likewise anybody in that same group can remove anybody else's connector that they added.
It would be really important to have communication through the group on this is why we have these connectors and this is why we don't have these connectors.
Right. And if you're using a connector that's really chatty, it's probably a good idea to let people know ahead of time to let them know that they can unsubscribe. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean they're not a member of the group anymore, but they're just not going to have all of that go right into their inbox. So.
I see it very similar to if you configure some service to send email to your group's email address. There's nothing preventing anyone from configuring that now. So I would say this is just a more powerful way to send email into a group, and all the same concerns apply in both cases.
It should also be noted that while anybody can add and remove them, only the person that created it can edit it. So if you make a connector, anybody else can remove it, but nobody else can make changes to the one that you put in. Okay. It's kind of a weird thing, but it's right. Yes. It could be changed, but not easily.
So that's all we have. Thank you for attending.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great day.
Thank you, everybody.